This is the Authority Company Podcast, conversations with leaders who are building the future. Hola, I'm Pardavila. My guest today is Shep Rose, best known to millions as one of the breakout stars of Bravo's Southern Charm. For years, Shep built a life around charm, adventure, and saying yes to almost everything. But after a blackout weekend in Vegas forced him to confront the cost of living without limits, he began asking harder questions about excess, identity, friendship, and what it actually means to change. His new book, Nothing in Moderation, A Psychedelic Reckoning with Excess, is honest, funny, uncomfortable, and surprisingly profound. It's a story about the persona that made him famous, the behavior that nearly broke him, and the long, messy process of facing the truth when there's nowhere left to hide. Shep Rose, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Here in Charleston, and summertime is upon us, which is good news, bad news, as we know.
Yes, it's unbearably hot. When people say, can I come visit you in Charleston? I'm like, yeah, just don't come in like July, August, or December. Outside of that, the weather is very pleasant. But as you know, Shep, the summer months here can be brutal if you don't have a body of water or a pool to lay by, because it's pretty tough to get around. But you seem to be doing okay.
And the crowds, you forgot the most important part.
Yeah. The traffic is the T word.
Crazy, yeah. So, and I'm partly responsible.
You are. I would say you have a piece of that pie of responsibility of bringing people. And we'll get to
the Chamber of Commerce would cut me a check every now and then, but that's not happening.
There's nothing in the budget for that, Shep. No. So let's start with the idea of this book that you've written, and you talk about this idea of nothing in moderation. And it's funny, Shep, for years, I've always battled the idea of no, because, there was this cottage industry of like, no is the most powerful word to give back time to you. You have control. No is, there were hundreds of books written about the power of no. And I've often pushed back about that because I feel like if you say no to everything, you'll never experience anything new.
Yeah.
But you are on the extreme side of the yesing and yesing to everything. Where did that start? This idea of being open to trying new things, being on a reality show, the businesses you've started. Like, tell me about this idea about you and embracing the word yes.
I mean, I think it goes back to when I was 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, and I wanted to spend the night out every night if I could, of course, not during the week. And I just wanted to see other things, experience other things. I was super curious, and I wanted a little adventure and excitement, even in early days. And so I just remember being restless too, like I don't like sitting on my haunches. And so I was ADHD, like patient zero, or maybe not zero, but close to it. So when I was in 4th grade, my mom's took me to go, and I write about this in my first book, by the way. And my mom took me to go get tested for Ritalin or whatever. Yeah, it was Ritalin. And I sat in a room and they gave me a test. And after the test, I guess there was a two-way mirror. They observed me. Somebody did, scientists, a team of scientists. And they said to my mom, "We have good news and bad news." And she said, "Well, what's the good news?" He did really well on the test. And what's the bad news? He laid underneath the table and plastered the test above his head. And that's how he took it. They're like, "We've never seen anything like that ever." So, it's been an interesting ride. And my poor mom and dad.
And so I'm assuming you were put on Ritalin at that point going forward?
I was, and it worked, but I hated how it made me feel. And I was antisocial. I was irritable, but I got my stuff done. Right. And I wouldn't leave the classroom until I understood everything that had gone on. I remember a math teacher being like, "Look, I've got my lunch break. Get the hell out of here." So eventually I just said, I'll deal with the sort of side effects and try to wrangle that. And I maybe that's been a challenge that I don't even think about. But saying yes is basically an answer to, being sometimes bored, and like not being stimulated. I love stimulation and excitement and curiosity.
And there's a phrase in the book that in your latest book that you talk about, and it's, "Why do I always lick the jar?"
Yes.
Without getting too much into that, tell us about that and why that sort of became your operating system.
Yeah, I was last man standing, like the party isn't over till I'm done kind of thing. And and it's not a good thing. Discretion is the better part of valor, as they say. And yeah, I was just desirous of everything. I say in the book, I'm the cookie monster. And it's fun till it's not fun. I think I wrote in there, there's this story of John Cleese from Monty Python, and
Sure.
he was very good friends with Robin Williams, back in Robin Williams' heyday of stand up and wildness. And he goes, man, I would start the night and watch him do stand up. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then afterwards, he was hysterical, funny. And then we go to the next party. It becomes a little less funny, a little more like, oh God. And by the end of the night, you want to tackle him, And so I can totally relate to that sort of, there's a sweet spot where everything's going well and you just kind of keep going and you think you're charming, you think you're funny, and you're actually just loud and obnoxious.
I know the feeling. And Shep, I think there's a fine line between with the word addiction, right? Because I think it gets thrown around a lot. And we probably all know people that like they go out and drink till like they pass out, but the next day they're a different person and they don't even like respond to it. It's like they can just get on their day without drinking, but then the next night out they're blackout drunk. So there's this idea of being an addict, but sort of living, I guess, hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the other way I could say it. Where did you find yourself in that camp? Was there the addiction, or you were just living too hard?
It's funny. I've got a couple friends in recovery, more than a couple. And it's interesting. I talk to them about that. And I say, I know a little bit about, obviously I know a lot about their struggles, and, their life was falling apart, whether it be a marriage or a career. And a lot of the times, pills, as including, opioids, or you hear horror stories, and I've heard them and I've experienced them. And, yeah, I mean, I had one of my, and what's funny is that our previous generation, our parents, and they, nobody went to rehab. I don't know. You were just the crazy uncle, or I guess. I mean, but I think it's really good that these days, and of course, I browse the brochure for sure from time to time. And one of my friends who's in recovery and works for a center, he's like, he knows me very, very well. We've had a lot of fun in the past, and we continue to have fun. But he's like, I never saw you as having like an addiction problem. You were just like saying yes and taking it right up to the edge. But maybe he's wrong. I still grapple with it, and I'm open to anything, and I'll consider anything. And I very much identify, and I say in the book, like, I have not figured anything out, like, but I'm asking the questions, and I'm for a long time, I was like, oh, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. And, oh, did I fuck up? Yeah. But like, my friends still answer my phone calls. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I can very much be Hurricane Shep, and but I'm sort of growing weary, and I'm harder on myself than I've ever been. And I think that's good. I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, and so, the subtitle of the book is From Bravo Breakdown to Psychedelic Reckoning. Without getting too deep, I'm sure folks who are familiar with the Southern Charm Bravo metaverse, they know about it. But tell me about it in for the folks not familiar, this Bravo Breakdown. Because like you said, it's not that you were an addict per se, again, using that sort of nebulous definition of it. You were just a person that just like lived life to the fullest and then like
Yes.
went past that. So
Yes.
tell me what a Bravo breakdown looks like.
Well, it starts with a congratulatory sense of yourself. So like, look where I am. I've got 40,000 people wanting to meet me and take pictures with me, and flying first class, and beautiful hotel room, and you just think, oh, well, let's just let it rip. Who cares? And I look how far we've come. And it's just a dangerous thing to pat yourself on the back, although it's important sometimes. But
Yeah.
and the right situation around loved ones and stuff like that, that's okay. But it's Las Vegas too. Like the Sin City. So I just kind of came out of the gates hot, and gambling's a trigger for me too. And Again, I don't gamble like on sports or anything, but if I'm around some blackjack tables, I just, keep the drinks coming. Let's go. And the ATM visits are every now and then, and it's just so stupid. But anyway, I was just full on Cookie Monster, and it was not good because it was a work thing, and there was a lot of eyeballs on me, important people's quote unquote, executives and people who maybe could help me in the future with different projects, and you don't think about that when you're stupid like I was being. So I don't know. Again, I don't have all the answers, that's for sure. But I guess controlling your environment and your um, sort of limits is something you should always be thinking about.
And one of the important people that were keeping an eye on you was Andy Cohen. And
Yeah,
in the book, you said, Andy says, "I love you, but this can't keep going."
yeah,
It feels like that was the sort of like the rubber meets the road moment for Shep Rose. Tell me why those. I mean, it's such a very short. It's not like it was. He gave you like this big, miracle on ice speech. He basically said, "Hey, listen, I love you as a person, but like, it's you're gonna have to do something or you're done." Tell me about the impact
yeah.
of
I
those
mean,
words.
the tenor of it was, if you want to do things on your terms, whether that's take another path or what have you. Um, Sometimes because it's a sad and tragic thing when you're you're sort of dictated to where what you have to, where you go and what you do. I mean, you don't want that. You want autonomy. And so he said, I can't help you if something happens and somebody is offended or upset with you and wants you to walk out the door. And so, yeah, it was very, very sweet of him to do, and I respect and like him so much. And he's just been very supportive to all of us on Southern Charm, and continues to be. And I don't know, I look up to him in many ways for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome what a simple phrase like that. Because I remember I had someone I work with who was a mentor of mine, and he had a really bad drinking problem. I mean, so bad. I mean, he was beyond you. Like he was emptying out Poland Spring water bottles and filling it up with vodka,
Oh
and
yeah,
during the day,
yeah,
and he would compensate by chewing a shitload of gum. Because as you know, when someone drinks a lot of vodka, Shep, you might be familiar with this. It does give off a bit of an odor. And
okay,
so there was one time we were in a studio and he's just popping like all this dentine, like by like the caseload. And I just said to him, "You're not fooling anybody." And he said to me years later, after he got clean and sober, he goes, "You just telling me that and reminding me that I wasn't tricking anyone was sort of one of the reasons I kind of got clean." Not saying that I was the main reason he did, but sometimes people like you and sometimes this person I work with is like, all you just need is like a simple set of words. Like you don't need like this big preamble. Just being keeping it simple really resonates in a way. And clearly Andy's words did with you.
yeah, yeah. And you know I've had other type folks. I mean, I write in the book that after a wild tournament weekend, and uh, with a bunch of wild folks, I obviously partook. Why? Surprise, surprise. And I got a message from him a week or so later, and said, "Hey, buddy, you've got a lot more to offer than being the life of the party." And those are like those that stays with me, and that's a good thing to think about. And sometimes you get caught up in your persona, your reputation, and that is, as I don't think anybody disputes, is a fun-loving, good time guy in Charleston. Let's have another drink for the road kind of thing. And so it's a hard thing to shake. And by the way, forget about my persona. That's how I viewed myself, and sometimes, and you know, so it can be a really interesting life, and it twists and turns. But yeah, it's important to get words from people, from peers. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Just a simple phrase can really make you think and hopefully affect you in good ways, positive ways.
And there is some gray area in this relationship between you and Andy. And I don't know Andy's not technically like the boss of Bravo anymore. I know he's got some weird position, whatever it is. But like there
He's
is
a
a bit
face
of
of the company. Yeah, I mean, he's in front of the camera,
yeah.
really. I'm sure he makes decisions, but
Sure, yeah, makes decisions, but he's not like the end all be all anymore. I'm
no,
sure
he's
he
too busy for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Because the reason I bring this up is because there is almost like a bit of Dr. Frankenstein's monster role in what he plays with you. Because if you're not the life of the party and you don't bring anything to the table in terms of, quote unquote performance,
Hmm.
they will not find a place for Shep Rose on the next season of Southern Charm. So how do you
Mm.
grapple with that? Because I've seen it. I worked in New York radio for many years, Shep, and I ran in those Real Housewives of New York circles, and I'll run into the ones that like get booted off a show, and they'll be like, yeah, Andy thought I just wasn't bringing enough to the table, so
Yeah.
they took me off the show. So how do you like grapple with that? The idea of like you are the fun loving guy. It's not like you're putting this on. This is you. But
Yeah.
but you mentioned this fact that like you were going too far. So how do you balance that of like being
Mm.
the fun loving guy that will be fun loving enough to be put on television, but not fun loving enough that you end up in rehab or maybe worse?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't do anything. I'm not an actor. So all I can be is myself. If that's not good enough, okay. I'll see you guys later. But I don't want it to be like Andy said for another reason. And so it is a razor's edge that we walk when we're filming. And yeah, there is pressure to be a little provocative, risque, I guess you could say, and stir the pot. There's absolutely, but that's internal. I don't feel that externally. I don't feel like any. I mean, and I don't know. Like I feel like I almost have uh, somewhat of tenure being here since the very beginning, and my instincts are pretty good when it comes to filming. I feel so. I don't really worry much about what people are saying. I just try to be true to myself and authentic, and of course, a little rascal from time to time, and push people's buttons. But I also try to be respectful. I had this thing sort of argument the other day, not argument, spirited discussion.
Sure.
I said, well, the thing about Southern Charm is first word in that Southern. What are Southern people? We're genteel. We're not gonna make a fool out of ourselves or try not to, especially be in a confrontational way. That's not how we handle things down here. We bury
Right.
things and maybe
Very
we
passive
talk behind.
aggressive.
Yes, and yes, we gossip behind each other's back, and that's a big part of the show. But I'm not gonna run into a room like a bull, looking for blood, looking for red. Like it's not who I am. I'm a generally happy person. Yes, I can get pissed, and yes, I'm frustrated by certain things, but I'm not gonna, you know, I don't know. I just think I'm gonna remain who I am, which is a Southern guy from a very nice family that everyone got along, and there's a lot of love and support. So that's how I approach life, really.
That's great. Great to hear. And let's talk about the second half of the subtitle where you talk about this psychedelic reckoning. And for many people, I think ayahuasca went mainstream a few years ago when Aaron Rodgers talked about it publicly. Um,
Yep.
Tell me about it for you. I mean, I know from what I understand, you have to go to another country. It's not like you could go down to the Circle K and grab some ayahuasca. So tell me, first of all, why you decided to do that, where you went, and tell me about the finished product that came out of it.
Okay, so I mean, I'd heard of it, and I'm a big aficionado of psychedelics. Always have been. Mushrooms, acid, whatever. Just like in high school and college, with friends, like going hiking or going to like a quarry and doing flips into the water and just kind of doing cool little things. So that was one thing, and I knew that it could be very eye opening and experiential and very I don't know, transformative. So I'd heard about ayahuasca, and then my friend Bailey, she lived down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, for 7 years, 5 years, and she did it 7 different times. And she told me a story. She was like, "I loved it." Like even she had one bad experience, but she was like, "It was very useful." The bad experience, which is kind of what I heard later on, and she goes, "I honestly like." I came to terms with some family issues like very vividly, and it was like a fog was lifted. I was like, that's amazing.
Wow.
And she goes, and I had a vision of you. And I said, oh shit, what was that? She goes, I saw you as an exit guy. And I said, exit guy. She goes, you're always looking for the exit. How do you get out? You instead of climbing the hill, you're like, how can I pop out and go down? And so she goes, I saw you jumping from mountaintop to mountaintop, not dealing with the valleys, just trying to be in the peaks. And if the things got hairy, you would exit and emotionally and physically. So I was like blown away by that. That's a very accurate description. And I was like, damn, she's got me clocked. But I love her. She's a very close friend. And anyhow, so that was in the back of my mind of trying it. And then BravoCon happened, and a lot of people, and I, confided a lot of people, and they're like, well, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to confront this? You're obviously, it's weighing heavily on you. So I thought about this, and then I talked to a couple people who had been to the Rhythmia where I went. And so I was Navy SEAL, and his wife went. It was very helpful. And he's tried a lot of different psychedelic experiences, the natural, like DMT and other things like that. And he was like, it's very beneficial. So I made a phone call and booked my trip, and off I went.
And it was Peru you go to, or
No, I went to Costa Rica.
Costa Rica? Okay. So tell me you get there, and from what I understand, again, this is all secondhand. It's not like a 20-minute session. This is like it's days, right? Tell me about the actual like process.
It's 7 days, 6.5 days. You arrive and they take you there. I didn't know anybody. I was by myself. So very first day of school vibes, mixed with a healthy anxiety about what we may or may not be going through in the next week. And so that's what prompted me to write this more than anything. It was just like stranger in a strange land. And whenever I'm a stranger in a strange land, I get inspired, and it just pours out of me, because it's just, they have a saying there, make yourself uncomfortably comfortable. So, and that means take yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's how you grow. And so I learned that. I continue to learn that. And so this was like a prime example of that. And so we get there, and we don't even do the medicine for 2 days. So you're kind of sitting around, they're prepping you a lot of breathing exercises, which are interesting, and some yoga and some speeches and talks by the staff and by guest speakers. And by the time it was time to do the first night, everyone was chomping at the bit, but as I learned, chomping at the bit is not the way to approach it at all. And so you're just like ready to go. Right. And so, that was it, man. I got to the first night, and then 4 nights in a row, and then 1 day of sort of getting rest. And then you're on your way back out into the world.
Wow. And so you use the word reckoning, and that's a big word, because I think reckoning means like it's changing you forever. Like it's not like a thing that happened and then all of a sudden I'm going to go back to being the old Shep that I always was. So tell me about some of these changes that happen that are, I mean, I guess a lot of it is intangible, I'm sure, but are there some sort of tangible changes that came from that trip?
Yeah. They talk a big about integration after you leave, and that you got to keep working. It's not a magic pill, so to speak. And they're right. They're exactly right. And frankly, I did experience some major changes in the way I see the world and see myself. That's good, but
Yeah.
I really want to go back and really like sort of understand the word integration and apply what I've learned in a more sort of focused way. Because then after a while you get back to real life, and you have the same friends and the same places you like to go, and the same habits sometimes. So, but I do think I came out the better. But the reckoning part is not some cure-all proclamation. That's for sure.
You mentioned your friend went several times. You're thinking about going again. What
Yes.
did she learn about herself that she needed to go, whatever it was, 5, 6, 7 times, and that you feel like, oh, I probably need to go back?
Yeah, I mean, there's one saying there, you might think you know why you're here, and there's a very good chance you'll leave being like, I didn't even consider that. And that was your big takeaway. And so you never know what the medicine's going to tell you. Mother Ayahuasca. Let me correct that. She is the queen. And you just don't know. And I mean, there's guys there at this particular place, Rhythmia, very well-known men and women who go there once a year, once every couple of years. It's I think it's very instructive, and it can't. And they said, what's the worst thing that could happen? Nothing. Nothing is the worst thing that can happen. Meaning, for whatever reason, you aren't able to surrender, as they say, to the medicine and just let your mind go, connect the dots. Like I was good at that. I'm good at that. Like if I heard something, I let that seep into me, or I saw something, whether perceived or not. And I started, my brain started to be very active, and you know, this means that, and this vision connects to that vision, and all this stuff. It's tremendously interesting, and I would do it again. And I plan on doing it again in the fall. I really am.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. If I may ask a silly question, is there, like, how do you pay for something like this? Is it like when you go for a spa weekend where you give them a credit card and you fill out something out? Is it that transactional? Because I know they make it sound like it's very ritualistic, and clearly it is. But you know, with a dose of capitalism sprinkled in there. So is it as easy as signing up with a credit card kind of thing?
Yeah, and you know, it's I would say you get your money's worth. I mean, you have a very nice room, hot shower, air conditioning. It's very much like the Ritz-Carlton of
Okay.
ayahuasca. We are not on a mat in the Amazon, you know, with giant caterpillars like crawling around. That's not what it's like. The staff is amazing. They have a full-time sort of medical staff in case, you know, in case of whatever. They've seen it all, and they're very experienced. And so that's what you're paying for, is really peace of mind and comfort in this moment, or moments where you are totally out there. And so it's very, I don't know, comforting.
That's awesome. You used the word bad trip earlier. Like, is ayahuasca? You mentioned the safety reasons. Like, are there bad trips with
Yeah,
ayahuasca if it's treated like this? And what does a bad trip look like on ayahuasca?
I write about this. My friend who I met there, nice fella, little wiry, skinny guy, and he recognized me. Oh, hey, it's Shep. He's so enthusiastic, the nicest fella. Me and my wife watch your show. Oh my god, oh my god. I was like, well, it's nice to meet you, and let's have, you know, let's see what's in store, you know. And so, and then he was sort of in the front of the class with his hand up a little bit, which is fine, which is fine. So again, he was leading with his chin. I felt, but I didn't know what the consequences of that was at all. And so the second night, he had something happen, and he sprinted into the woods, which is a no-no. You have a, you know, you need to be in the contained area.
Sure.
And the staff took after. I mean, I was vaguely aware there was a commotion because I was going through my own thing. And he runs into the woods. They got mag lights looking for him everywhere, and they drag him back, and he's, oh my God, just saying the most outrageous things. And I walk past him, and he's looks up in the sky at no one in particular, and is like, "Thanks a lot, Dad." And I was like, "Oh my God." I mean, it's not funny, but it was funny at the time. And I was like, "Okay, this." And they had to subdue him. I mean, he was going to, you know, potentially harm himself. So
Wow.
that happens. And so the next day I saw him, and I said, "You okay, man?" He's like, "I'm so embarrassed." I was like, "Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed." And I was like, "Talk to me." He goes, you know, my father was not a good man. And, I went, and, you know, I had a lot of trauma and continue to, but last night was super helpful. I know it was crazy, and I was crazy, and I said, "You know, dude, just to put your mind at rest, there was another guy there, this big dude who was cool." And, this was his fourth visit, you know, over years. And he said, "Oh, I had a freak out." He's like, "I started like grappling with a staff member on the medicine." Like he's like a jujitsu guy. And
Wow.
the staff was like, "What are you doing?" You know? And then all of a sudden he got serious, and the whole staff had to like subdue him. And he's a big guy. he's like, I was so embarrassed, but like, whatever. So I'm not saying it's dangerous. But if you approach it, it's all about your approach. And to surrender and let it happen and know in the back of your mind that everything's going to be okay. And that's part of my psychedelic experience. You're like, okay, this is freaking crazy, but it's going to end. Maybe try to harness it in different ways. And so, yeah, it's a learning experience.
And speaking of learning experience, you talk about your ADHD struggles with, alcohol, gambling, and then you go through a psychedelic reckoning. After all of that, what does moderation look like in the world of Shep Rose? Like, what is like the mid-level Shep Rose look like today?
Yeah, yeah. Routine. Taking pleasure in the mundane, which is not my modus operandi, as I've said.
Yeah.
It's going to the gym in the morning or going to write in the morning with some coffee and then going to the gym and then, catching up on emails. And I don't know, they said it at Rhythmia there. I was like, it's all about doing the right thing. They're like, there is no right thing. Like, don't try to categorize that way. It's being the best version of yourself. And, I think part of that is it might be, it'd be nice to do the family thing. And I've talked about that many times. I think that requires a lot of energy, and it's the good kind of energy if you do it the proper way, and the way that I was raised. And so I think about that a lot. Of course, I'm not going to haphazardly walk into some, family relationship, but I'm very much in that mode. Like, okay, I've got all this energy. It's not dissipating. um, and so I think about that a lot.
And I want to talk about the future here. You think about, like, obviously settling some more roots down in terms of forming a family, but like, I often think about folks like in your world, and think of you like milk. Like, is there an expiration date on this
Yeah.
Bravo Liberty, word that you guys throw around? Like, do you look at the future of like, how many years do I want to have a camera follow me around? Me being the happy-go-lucky on camera. Is that something? I mean, obviously, you're still taking, the idea of like building a family and such, at this point in your life. But like, do you see like a point where like, I just can't do this anymore? Or maybe it's like it's a mutual thing. Like, maybe it's best that we both stop doing. Like, have you thought that far ahead?
Yeah, as I'm in the process of trying to develop a couple other projects on television, what I've learned is I'm pretty good at television, and that spawns from or is catalyzed by my ADHD. I was very much the guy who studied the night before and got an A, and so when the pressure's on, I'm able to focus even more. And so when that camera's on, I'm like lasered in. I'm able to say what I want to say in a controlled, somewhat controlled, and cogent manner. So and I'm allowed, and I like being funny. It's a creative outlet. I'm very much am doing improv all the time, all the freaking time. I'm doing improv. And that's what I want to do, is be funny. That's all I've ever wanted to be. I don't care about anything else. I've done stand up a few times. I've enjoyed it. Might continue to. I'm going to do this book tour. It's going to be sort of a lot of on mic work, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I wish our show was a straight comedy, but that's not that's not what it is. But boy, some of the things that have been done and said brings a lot of joy and happiness to people. And if I can continue to do that, maybe in a less stressful, drama-filled venue in the future, whenever that future comes, then I'd be very interested in that, because TV's not a bad gig, not a bad way to keep the lights on.
No, no, it doesn't. It's funny too. I remember back in the day when I was working, like I said, in New York radio, I got to know those Jersey Shore people, and they during the height of Jersey Shore, and I remember them saying like, "Yeah, you don't get rich off this show. Like, you're not making a lot of money. It's all the ancillary stuff." And I'm
Sure.
sure for folks like you, especially the Southern Charm cast, who are already all kind of successful business people in their right, it's almost like you do the show. The show's basically like a marketing campaign for whatever you're doing in life, right?
Yes, for many, for people more ambitious maybe than not ambitious, but opportunistic.
Yeah.
But here I am. I wrote a book. I'm having to post and market it, and I enjoy that. I'm a little reticent to like overdo it. Hit them over the head, but you kind of have to. Sort
Yeah.
of that's the name of the game. So, um, it's not my personality to be have all these you know capitalizing on this and that, but I do have a manager, and,
Yes.
that's why I have him, and he's very good, and I'm happy to do it if it makes sense to me. I don't want to be a walking billboard. I just don't. Unless it's something that I really like and or use or believe in, and I'm happy to do that there. The great part about our show or whatever notoriety I have is to help out local friends and bands and businesses, and that costs nothing for me. Of course, I would never charge them. It's just like, hey guys, I mean, it's a rising tide lifts all boats, all those sayings, and it gives me great pleasure to help out people around me in any way I can, and to give people at home some sort of entertainment in their difficult lives, whatever it may be. And my biggest takeaway, I just circle back on ayahuasca, was gratitude. That was it. I listened to a lot of really horrific stories of people and trauma and pain and abuse. And I just thought to myself, God damn, do I have it good? I just couldn't get away from that, to where the final day, I just burst into tears with all flood of these wonderful memories of being loved and taken care of, and my brother and my sister getting picked up for her first prom, and us hiding underneath the couch in the courtyard and watching the awkward interaction, and me and my brother, we shared a room, and me making him laugh and getting in trouble all night because he stayed up too late, and me going surfing and eating grilled cheeses that my mom made. And, I had this cavalcade of just beautiful memories, and I just broke down in tears of appreciation.
That's awesome. You clearly appreciate it. And lastly, I want to ask, can you explain this ephemeral connection that you and the cast of Southern Charm, and maybe even these Bravo shows, that connect with people? Because as you know, some of these Bravo shows just don't work out. And there's cast rehevals every few seasons, and people are
Mhm.
coming and going. But you've obviously sustained, a lot of your cast members have. What is it? I know it's maybe hard to put into words, but what is it that you guys do on Southern Charm that connects with people outside of the low country, which people who live down here know all the places you're going to and everything like that? But why is it connecting outside geographically, do you think?
A couple things. First, you mentioned Jersey Shore. I think there was a tremendous curiosity around the world, mostly US. What is going on in the Jersey Shore? Who are these people? We hear these stories, and they're mostly sort of joke, not all that complimentary
Right.
sort of characterizations, stereotypes. So I think it was everyone was very interested to peel back that curtain and see what the hell's going on in the Jersey Shore. Even though I'm here to say there's some really nice parts of the Jersey Shore. I think Avalon in particular is a
Sure
beautiful
are.
little community. Anyway, so I think the South was the same. People are like, what's going on down there? And Whitney, who created it, smartly envisioned that curiosity manifesting itself in an erudite Southern world where it's not honey boo boo, right? Like, we're not living on the train tracks and stuffing our face with stuffed crust pizza or whatever the hell they do. Like, we all are educated. We're more of the Mark Twain, um, literary sort of. I don't know. Now this is me pontificating, but Faulkner, Georgia O'Keeffe, there's a lot of fascinating Southern characters. In the past. And so hopefully we can scratch that surface. And we did. I feel like we did. And people like, oh gosh, okay, I didn't know that this little community existed, or maybe I didn't know much about it, and now I do. But then the other part was, we weren't seeking a TV career, we weren't seeking fame in the beginning. I know we weren't in the beginning. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. And we were just being friends and screwing up and laughing a lot and fighting some. And it just came across as super authentic, which it was. And we were very much wet behind the ears, you know, and that translated. Now, so we got a great fan base early on. That was important. We got some momentum, and credit to everybody involved. We've added some gems along the way, and it's an interesting equation and an experiment. People coming in and out, and I'm just happy to have been here the whole time. You know, it's been a wild ride, but I would say overwhelmingly positive one.
If you want to read about the ride, check out Nothing in Moderation, A Psychedelic Reckoning with Excess. He is Shep Rose. Shep, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, all the best to you. Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to find out more information about Shep and our other amazing authors, go to theauthoritycompany.com.